Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner on SkaredCast. Every Thursday we talk about the battle report that happened earlier in the week. And this week is no different, with the forces of the Drukhari taking on the mechanized force of the Astra Militarum. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner. A quick little recap of this week's game. So we had 2,000 points of Drukhari in a mechanized force versus 2,000 points of Astra Militarum, sporting a Shadow Sword super heavy tank. So we were playing a multiple objective Maelstrom mission, just a basic Maelstrom. So I knew that having to put all the stuff in the middle of the board would force the Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum, to move out of their positions, and being in their tanks, forcing them onto the offensive would mean that I would have a better chance at assaulting them and bogging them down in the middle of the board. Now, I did get lucky on the first turn with the Astra Militarum not being able to do as much damage as they wanted to, and they deployed in a very centralized position with their strength in the middle, supported by heavy artillery and on the flanks. Now, in terms of combat drugs and general strategy, my strategy was one of tying down as many chimeras as possible in close combat while using my long-range anti-tank to kill things like Pask, and then the Scourge to go in and do some damage to the rear artillery. Luckily enough, I was able to fit the Scourge in the back, and then they were able to charge in and pin one of the Hydras in close combat, as tanks can no longer move through walls. Now, I believe I did go for the +1 toughness combat drug on the Witches to keep them around for longer, but there were a couple of things that really did go my way. Mostly I would charge into one tank and then use my consolidation moves to try and target as many different tanks as possible to prevent them from shooting later in the turn. My Trueborn provide invaluable with their blasters, and their target priority was originally to get rid of Pask on that flank and then to start taking out chimeras at a time. The Shadow Sword did need to be dealt with, and it took me 2 turns to deal with him with the amount of launch shots that I had. But being in combat with the Witches and with the Succubus and preventing the enemy units from running away really allowed me to dictate the pace of the combat and not get shot to pieces. In terms of my opponent's army, I was mostly scared of things like the Manticores and the Shadow Sword. And even though I did take heavy casualties at the end of the game, I was holding most of the objectives. The death of the Shadow Sword really saw the game completely switch into my favor, while units like the Mandrakes and Scourge just harassed the back. So my opponent was never really able to focus the full brunt of his army on any part of my army. The Witches holding the Ogryns on a flank and then consolidating into the middle of the table, and me really using my long range and line of sight blockers to mitigate the enemy damage. Now, I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any comments, leave them down below. There's lots of other battle reports coming up, links in the description to more content. And if you do like what I do, consider supporting on Patreon and helping me create more and varied content. After all, this has been Skari, your grateful host, and we're signing off today. Join us next week on Monday when we release the next battle report, and the Drukhari are at it again, fighting, destroying, and maiming. Skari out.